This is the S23 unboxing. So, for the first time since the S10 Plus, I have bought a Samsung S phone, which doesn't end in Ultra. Typically, whenever I reviewed phones, I would always review the Ultra version, including the S23 Ultra this year, by the way. That's the last video. But the reason I did that was partially because the Ultra is overall a more interesting phone to review, but also the S20 kind of just put me off all the S phones for a while, just because it had a plastic back, which, I don't know. It might seem like such a basic thing, and for some people they really might not care, but for me, I love for a phone to have a high build quality that complements the design, and it's a part of the beauty of a phone for me. And the fact that that was lacking on that phone really put me off getting the whole S lineup even to review. But anyway, this year things are looking ever so slightly different. New design, new look, new materials, and I can't lie, in person especially, this is possibly my favorite designed phone. Maybe ever, but I'm gonna say the year, just to keep it safe. Also, side note, this is quite a light phone. I know how important that is to some of you, that's why I shut the fuck up there for a second. But anyway, you see that Apple cloth? That bad bitch cost me 20 pounds. And it's worth it because, oh my god. Look at that black color. That's all I'm gonna say. Anyway, the more I came to hold this phone in my hand, the more I came to notice something, and that was the similarity in design and build that this phone has to the iPhone 14. Usually Samsung's style has been having kind of a phone where the back panel, the front panel, and the edges all kind of seamlessly flow into each other. That's why they became very well known with their curved edges on the display. But this is different. This is very much iPhone-like, where the back panel is clearly its own thing, the front screen is clearly its own thing, and then the edges, the stainless steel edges, are almost flat. And that's kind of the only difference between this and the iPhone design in terms of that form factor, where on the iPhone it's fully flat edges, where here there's a very slight curve to it that you can feel in the hand. But other than that, it feels just like an iPhone, especially considering the fact that the back panel is just a sheet of frosted glass, just like an iPhone, as Samsung do as well, but overall the whole combination is just so similar. And the reason I say this is just to give you some kind of reference as to what it would be like using and holding this phone. This isn't me claiming that Samsung are copying Apple, though I wouldn't be surprised if they took some inspiration. Oh, and interestingly enough, you saw the phone suggest Microsoft Bing as a default browser, which brings me on to maybe I should make a video on the new Bing AI, which kind of like the ChatGPT competitor. Anyway, leave a like or comment below if you want to see that. Anyway, now with the phone set up, all I can really say is not much has changed. I mean, essentially all that really has changed are the cameras and the processor, and with that comes changes in battery life supposedly, and obviously the slight design changes that took place. But with the screen on, I'm kind of reminded of how much this feels like an iPhone. I think Samsung makes Apple's screens, because what I came to find the more I've used this phone is that whenever I was in an app, I would really truly forget that I was using a Samsung, and I would swipe out of it. I would do certain gestures expecting it to behave like an iPhone. I was expecting the iPhone animations, but I would get a Samsung one and it would kind of throw me off guard a little bit. I'm sure it's probably just because I've been using the iPhone 14 Pro for quite a bit of time when I was reviewing it, but it was just, I don't know, something that stuck out to me. It's not a bad thing, it's not a good thing, it's just interesting that I genuinely thought I was using an iPhone at times once I started to not really consciously think about the phone, and I was just focused on the app or whatever it is I was doing on the phone. Also, if you know what it feels like to use an iPhone 12 or 13 or 14 Pro, then me telling you this gives you a pretty good idea of what to expect with this phone in your hand in terms of user experience. But in terms of what's actually changed, one of the main changes, like I told you earlier, is the new processor, which is the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. Now, this is apparently a 4 Galaxy version, which means it's, well, you would think it would mean it's customized for this phone, which generally something you should know in tech is if a processor is customized for a specific piece of software, then often it will be miles ahead of competition, which is not optimized for the software. But from what we hear so far is the 4 Galaxy doesn't really mean too much of customization and optimization. It's more of just, it's a slightly better chip than a typical Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. But you're not getting any major changes, supposedly. With this, we're also hoping for better battery life, and it's what I'm hearing. Also, that is paired with the fact that it is a slightly bigger battery this year, because with the S22, it was a 37 mAh battery. This year, it's a 3900 mAh battery. But I'll let you know about all of that in the review in terms of how well the battery actually holds up in my personal experience, especially when it comes to things like brightness, because different people tend to use different brightnesses, and that dramatically affects battery life. Me, for example, I'm somebody who loves to have my brightness at 100% all the time. And then other than the design and build, which we mentioned earlier, the final change is the cameras. The camera system has been completely redesigned. You have a 50 megapixel main camera, and then a 12 megapixel ultra wide and a 12 megapixel 3x telephoto camera. There's new AI image processing, and overall you should expect a new improved result, hopefully, and that is what we hear. But the whole camera test will also be in my full review, which you will get a notification for if you hit that notification bell, which you need to subscribe first in order to do. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, to conclude my first impressions, basically all I've got to say is it's a very similar phone to the S22. If you've got the S22, it's definitely not worth the upgrade. But overall, it does seem like a pretty promising phone, a very compact phone, the sort of phone that combines as much as it can into a small package. Which, by the way, also, side note, brings me on to the fact that I love the size of this phone. Personally, I'd always go for bigger phones like the Ultra because I like having that larger screen, bigger content. But in terms of comfort and convenience and what feels right, this sort of size is perfect. And the way it combines all the tech into this compact build is very good. So if you're looking for a flagship phone on the lower end of prices, or even arguably a mid-range and a higher end, then this does seem pretty promising. But all the details will be in a review in terms of my experience, battery life, speed test, camera test, all of that stuff. Anyway, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and give this video a like and comment for the sake of the algorithm, because it really helps me out. Now check out my Instagram at El-Naggar for a behind the scenes perspective. You get an idea of what I'm about to post, the sort of things I've been posting, new products that I've been putting out, like wallpapers, icons, all of that. So check that out. Anyway, I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Salam.